Hi everybody. From time to time we have the amazing opportunity to really come out into the fields and the patches and the crops and get one-on-one with some of the folks who are using our products. And today I am with an amazing gentleman. And can you say hello?
Good morning.
Hey Jake, thanks for letting us come out and visit with you. And it is amazing how we get to come out and talk to people about what they're doing. So I want to introduce you just a little bit and tell everybody who we're talking to here. So we're out here looking at what are you growing today?
We're growing giant watermelons.
But these aren't just any watermelons. I have to let y'all know that Jake is he is over a 15-year
state
record holder for growing what kind of watermelons?
Carolina Cross watermelons and also black diamonds.
And how did you start growing watermelons?
I had a friend that made fun of my melon patch about 20 years ago, and he's making fun of the size of them. And I decided the next year that I was going to grow one bigger than he did, and it kind of developed into a hobby.
Well, we're looking out here at your patch today, and it looks like you've got 8 plants going, right?
That's correct.
And we're going to talk about those a little bit, but I want to see a picture of your record holder watermelon. Now, you've won for the last 15 years, right?
Right.
So in the state of Georgia, and here it is. Let me put this up here so we can see this.
Yes, sir.
So what year was this?
This was a year before last year.
Okay, and
21.
264 and a half pounds.
And that's the current state record.
All right. So one of these is going to be this year's state record holder. That's what you're hoping, right?
We hope so.
And then you also got a world record.
Yes, we grew the I guess there's not really an official world record for black diamond, but we did grow the largest pure black diamond last year.
Okay, let's see it.
There's only been one grown that was a cross that was bigger, but that one was a pure black diamond.
And that was grown also here in this patch as well.
It was. It weighed 205 and a half pounds. 205
and a half pounds. Well, that's amazing. So how many years have you been using OII-YS?
I first found it at the Sunbelt Expo.
Yeah, we've been going there for a long time trying to...
Yeah, I'm going to say probably 10 years maybe.
Okay.
So,
and then how are you using it? What do you...
So I have used it both as foliar and a drench. This year, I always plant a cover crop to help keep the microbes alive during the winter. And usually they're available in the spring when I go in and plant. So this year I actually used it in the fall to help feed those microbes.
And then what about in the last few weeks?
In the last few weeks, so what I did here, I'll go back and start where we started. In March, we started the watermelon seeds, and we grafted them to gourds that had been started about a week prior. And it takes about 5 days in a healing chamber for them to heal up, and then you want about a week or 2 under a grow light to let them get healed together good. And so then I brought them out and planted them in the patch, and we'll inoculate them with several different types of mycorrhizal fungi and also different types of bacteria. I let it probably grow for about a week, and then we come back and use the OII-YS and some kelp to help feed it. And so these plants have been in the ground about a week. This plant, when we put it in the ground, was about probably half that size. So, and it takes them a little bit to get established and start growing good. In a couple of more weeks, this plant will practically fill in this spot.
And we were talking about before we hit record here that this plant had a little bit different beginning than all the other plants, and it is much larger than the other ones at this moment, but give me a little bit of background on that.
So these other plants, I started them, they were started about the same time this one was, but they were not started in a greenhouse. This plant, a friend in North Carolina, this particular seed grew my biggest melon, and I didn't have any germinate, so he started a few for me and mailed them to me, and he started them in a greenhouse, so they were a little bit bigger than mine when they started out.
So these others all came from here on your farm, except for that one. And as we talked about earlier, we're going to make some predictions, and we're going to be visiting you throughout the year to kind of watch the progress and see what you're doing here in the watermelon patch. And we're specifically going to watch this one and a couple of these others over here, because you've done this for a while and you're watching these babies closely now. And so we're going to let you make a pick today. Now, we know this could change next week, but if you're making your best guess, what do you think are going to be the two best plants that you might have another record holder from this year?
So it's really one of those things you never know, and I have a few that are not grafted in here, because you may have 10 of these grafts and 2 of them actually make it throughout the year. What happens is that gourd pushes so many nutrients and so much water to that plant that the stump on them will actually get this big, and it's pushing so much water that sometimes the stem will split and actually blow out and leak, and the plant will rot. So you may lose a few through the year, but if we didn't lose any, I would say probably this big plant, just because I've had a good history of growing on it. And then this plant right here was a seed from my 2012 state record that it was grown out of the 2 biggest watermelons. The mother and the father of this melon was the 2 biggest watermelons ever grown at the time. And I have grown it several times without grafting it, and it's always grown my biggest melon. So I'm hoping that with it grafted, that it'll give it an extra boost, and genetically it's a very good seed.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to be a part of your team this year, and we can't wait to see what happens in the watermelon patch. And we're calling this one the OII-YS watermelon patch, and we're going to be looking at these plants, but we're also going to take a quick look throughout the year at another patch shut down the hill here. So how many plants do you have in this patch?
We're going to have 5.
So 5 plants down here. At the current time, these have received the exact same treatment as the OII-YS patch, except Jake has not added OII-YS on any of these. So this is going to be somewhat our control group, and we can look at these today also a little bit and see that they're a little bit smaller in size and they're a little bit different in color already showing through. But throughout this season, we're going to come back and visit Jake and his watermelon babies and see what happens over the time. And, you know, I always ask this, you know, what are your expectations? Like, you've used this before, and so what do you think is going to happen between the OII-YS patch and this patch of what you can predict?
So really what we're trying to do here is we use mostly organic fertilizers and soil amendments, because we want to support the rhizosphere. If those plants have the bacteria and the fungi they need to assist them in taking up nutrients, there's plenty of nutrients here. So what we want to do is feed that, and there's different things you can do to feed that, but chitosan is one of them, which is in OII-YS. So we're hoping that maybe it's going to cause better growth in our rhizosphere, and we'll see the results in the plants.
And in previous years, you've noticed that that patch up there that you use it on uses less inputs, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to say on inputs because you have such different weather every year. So I really only usually water these to get nutrients to them because they really don't require as much water as you would think. But now as far as like the amount of fertilizer you would need, yes, you could, if that system is working like it should, you shouldn't need as much fertilizer.
Okay, so if I'm growing watermelons in my backyard, what is a tip from a truly blue ribbon grower here? What would you give tips to do if somebody wanted to start out growing watermelons for their first time?
So I always tell people the first place to start is a soil test. You want to get a soil test. You want to make sure that your pH is in the right range. It's very important because if your pH is too high, you don't get good micronutrient uptake. If it's too low, you don't get good macronutrient uptake. Once you get that, and you want to use organic type amendments to correct those problems. And then once you've corrected that, you want to start working on your biological activity, planting cover crops. There's a lot of inoculants on the market that you can use to help get it started. Compost is great because it's developing all this stuff as it's making the compost.
Right.
So you can use compost tea. Once you've got all that established, you want to feed it. So things like this OII-YS, kelp. Kelp doesn't have a lot of fertilizer value, but it feeds this system.
Well, we are looking forward to going through the season with you. We are honored and privileged to be here among the patch today. Wish you nothing but great success, and we cannot wait to taste the record-breaking watermelon that you're going to have this year. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.